Hey, it's the last passive AD FNATIC upset, and you're watching Thorin's YouTube channel.
Yeah.
One thing I want to ask about the OG team is this, though. Since fans, I mean, maybe the ones who watch my content do know, because I think as Alfari a year ago or something revealed that detail about Mithy. Since fans don't know it was supposed to be Mithy in that lineup completing it, they don't really know that. That Origen team, to me, is a what-if, dude, because as you say, it's basically like running back the team from the previous year with a different jungler, and it's you instead of Patrick. So I actually thought that team could have done so much fucking... But obviously you couldn't get one of the key pieces, which was Mithy, and I'm sure, by the way... That's like, again, if you're on smaller teams, that's the sort of player you're dreaming of playing with, like a fucking Mithy, a Hylissang. These are the guys you want to get to, right?
Yeah, 1000%. Mithy also somebody. Like, the quality I love most about a player, of course, is... okay, there's two. One, I want him to be really, like, great at their role. Like, just from the individual, I look how they play, I look how they move their character, and I'm like... in awe, like, wow, he is looking to perfect his game like I do. I can see the effort that goes into that. And it's like, if you play a game so much and you see like the minute details or like the things they can pull off, I'm like, yeah, that's right. This guy's fucking good. And the other thing is that people really care to make the situation winning for the team. And that can be through saying everyone just plays through fucking me, but try to find a way to make the team work. And I think Mithy is probably like the best example, who probably taught Perkz a lot in that as well. And Trick had a similar quality. And I just love to have people like that in my team, that like just fucking want it and that go out of their way to put in the effort to make the things that are important, that don't show up in your individual gameplay, but that can make the difference for the team work. And I think Mithy would have been that piece, and I had so much respect for Mithy, and I was so ready to fucking learn from this guy and really be a great bot lane with him. And I actually was talking so much with him, and I was really excited for that. And then we got Destiny, and I don't want to shit on him at all, because he's like the...
I always think the fairest way to do it is this, mate, right? First of all, Origen was trying to be a top 4 team in Europe, right? So it's not like you're just any LEC team. So you have to be top quality player to be in that team. We're not hating on you. It's the same as like Bayern Munich or something, mate. You can't just be an average defender and play for Bayern Munich. You have to be really good. It's Bayern Munich, for fuck's sake. So first of all, if it's a top team, the expectation should be a top player. And then secondly, just like the Mithy angle, if people know that this org had no money and were basically looking for like someone who's going to accept not a big amount, you can't go get the biggest names. Like, there wasn't many people on the list, right? It was only a couple of people.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like that no money, but they didn't have money for like
a huge name,
really good,
of course.
Really good players everywhere. But I'm pretty sure Mithy would have been okay with a number that would have been like, to nowadays standards, like pretty underwhelming.
Yeah. Like I say, to me, I think it was more the insult of how low it was, not that it was low. You know, I get in that point in his career, he knew he wasn't the best anymore. You know,
it was probably like keep in mind he got bought out by TSM, and like his deal he took a big hit to go there, and then it was like lower, I think, than what he got offered, or like basically the same, and he was like on a very bad salary. So yeah, but now he's in NA, and I think he's making up for that.
I'm sure he's fine now. Exactly.
I think he's fine, but
true.
But yeah. So that, if I can talk about Destiny for a moment, I think he was trying really hard to fit in, but I think being in that team for him with his personality was just tough, because I think everyone was seen as like really, really good players at the time, and it was so much expectation, and I think he could feel that pressure a lot, and I really want my support and me to play fucking good. I really want that, and I really want to work hard on that, and I think we do cute, and we got rank 1 and rank 2, and we tried to review, but there were just some moments like we play like I mean, this sounds like not big for anyone that is like not super into it, but there was just a moment where we play scrim, and I say like Thresh versus Leona, like you always auto attack him, and when he comes close you flame away, and you need to space him well, and he got like cute by Leona for like the 50th time, and it's just like, oh dude, no. And my brain was just like, I can't take this anymore, please. This is too much. But this is just one moment I remember. Of course, I was a big reaction in my mind, but I didn't like say anything like that in that moment. But I could feel the friction rise a little bit, because I was like slightly disappointed by that he couldn't be what I worked so hard with him that we are. and he also felt that, I think, and he didn't feel too good with that, and yeah, it sucks because afterwards I still think he's a super like cool and super friendly guy. Like I don't think he ever hold a grudge, or even if he did, I think he really tried to understand me. Like, okay, this guy really wants it, and if he's sometimes angry or like frustrated with situation, like I get it. Like I respected in him, and I respected that he was like mature as well, and I think also the mix of him, Nuke, and Zerse was like very bad. I think if we had a mithy, and that's also what people don't understand. Like bot lane is important, the pairing is good, but that the mid support jungle actually want to make the game good. Like if you watch China, for example, every game nearly is like right now they have like Galio or Vex or something that can follow up, like a Nautilus or Leona, basically every game, or sometimes a Rakan, like, ooh, he's being crazy. and the carry jungle, or like something that can make plays early, like Lee or Vego, and they just play so much together. And it's really what the game evolved to way more after season 7, but probably even before that. Like it depends on the season, of course, but Nuke was like I said, more passive on the side of like engaging into problems. Zerse is also a really sweet person, I think, who really wouldn't hurt a fly, and also very agreeable. And Mitch was also like that. And I felt the need to try to engage the people, but also it ended up more that I engaged them around me, because I play AD carry, of course. It's really hard for me to like to sit like 3 people down that like all play their role and say like, here, mid support jungle, you need to do this together here. Like that's not my, like it's not like it's not my responsibility. I should try to make them communicate, but if there's like no urge in themselves, I think they will not be good by somebody else telling them to do that. I think in League you really need to want it yourself often to reach that next level, and so it was a lot about bot, because honestly Alphari, I don't think
killing it, wasn't he?
Alphari was playing amazing 1v1, but he also felt, I think, that the team was kind of dysfunctional in summer split. In spring we actually did well. Like we lost to FNATIC and G2 in playoffs, and the series were, in my opinion, more close, especially versus G2. Like,
and if people watch the regular season games, there was some really good Origin games.
Oh yeah, we were
really
like,
good.
We were like tied for second, I think, in that spring split. We were like second and first all-pro team, me and Alphari, I think, or like doing really well. And in playoffs, we lost to FNATIC, I think, first round, where they played like Zilean, Senna versus Yuumi, Ezreal, and they had like a very innovative strategy where the Zilean like was basically got out of lane for free, and they're playing like fully to top side, and we were like more of a bot lane team, but actually their top 2v2 did really well, because they also had like Zilean TP and the Senna global, and they had like a very good strategy mid top jungle, like it was self-made Nemesis and Whippo. And I think we got kind of outplayed in the first 2 games with that, and on bot I was like stuck playing Yuumi Ezreal and just farming, and the games were decided before that. And then I mean that will also lead into a different point. And then the other 2 games, me and Destiny actually killed their bot lane like 5 times 2v2, but I think we got really drained in that series to make good decisions, and I think we really struggled to have that decisive voice in different parts of the map as well, to make the good calls, because they were really like, it was the series where Hilly was like split pushing with Strandl, for example.
Right.
And he was going like crazy, and we lacked that like instinct, I think, to really fucking go when we see it, which like people like Igna and Hilly really had, and because we were really far ahead in some of these games, but it was still a struggle to win, and that usually is a sign that the other team is probably just playing better as a group than you. So we lost to FNATIC, and then we lost to G2, and the games were super close, but they were more clutch. Like, I think that's just it. We were winning lanes, we were doing well, but in the end they were just winners, and we were trying to be winners, I think. And we tried really hard to learn from that, but summer split, I think our problems got bigger and not smaller. I think that because in spring at least we had like our identity, we were playing like a lot of Katos on and doing that stuff, but the meta really changed in summer, where this playstyle of like the support jungle mid having to make plays, or like being way more active, was really much more important. And we ended 10th, but it was a really weird split. I'm not making excuses, like we were 10th.
No, like this is the one where if people don't know, like 10th is like, if I looked up now, I'm going to guess you were probably like 2 games out of playoffs or something. Like this was the one where it was super competitive for the last playoff spot.
If like after we lost the last game in Super, I think before Super Week we were like 7th or something. If we won one game, I think we would have been in playoffs because we would have won the tiebreaker to XL with 7 wins. We would have been in playoffs or 100% tiebreaker, if I remember correctly. But because we lost that one game, I think the last 2 games we were not taking it very seriously. We were going for like not meme draft, but like something more dank.
Yeah, I looked it up. You won 6 games, and one of the playoff teams was Schalke, and they had 8 wins. So it was only 2 wins between last place and playoffs.
Yeah, but I think we also lost to the team that, like, if we won versus one, if I remember correctly, maybe it was XL and Schalke or something. Like, if we would have beat them, it would have meant something for the head-to-head, and they would have had one win less. So it was very close for us being 10th place to 5th place or something crazy like that. Because we also had circuit points, so we could have maybe even gotten top 4. But it's like a different world, and I think this team was not like we even swapped our support later on, right? Because I felt Mitch was. I think it was just a broken system. It was not necessarily him, but maybe with some new energy and someone who had different strengths. It's not like Jactroll was like a strictly better player than Mitch and everything, but he wants to make shit happen, and he...
Let me ask you about that then, because that is a move that a lot of people found very shocking. Like, as much as people criticise Destiny, like, I'll tell you right now, mate, a lot of the analysts think Jactroll fucking sucks. Like, a lot of them, like, he's like a meme guy to them because of some, like, he had some really bad flashes and ints and stuff. And obviously, let's be real, like, that wasn't exactly the most historic botlane ever when he was in Vitality. So here's the question I have, though, because I've also heard, though, that he's another, like, scrim god, and that apparently that's how he gets in all these teams, is like, if you actually play with him in the tryout or whatever, he'll be really good.
Well, people should talk players like Sprattel, Jactroll, and then they go down a league and Sprattel wins EU Masters and like makes it really deep. Or like, I think he won EU Masters and then the final, and people say like people who win EU Masters, like, they have a future in LEC.
Yeah,
really up and coming players. And it's like, yes, I think there's talent there, and people that win EU Masters often can have that possibility. I think a lot of them could also just play LEC already before winning EU Masters, but it's like something that make it more visible for people that are like not super in the solo queue system. But he, like, even now when he's in Vitality, B, the second team, people are saying he's like the best support in French League, and he's doing really well, and they won the French League split, I think, as well. And it's not like he's a bad player. He just, when he plays and it goes bad, he looks super, super bad. And that's like, I think, where a lot of the narratives come from. And he's not like a great player either, of course. But I think his strengths were like, he was good. We were actually pretty good at laning. I think even we lost that split, I'm pretty sure I had like the highest CSD. And I know it's like, yeah, whatever, highest CSD. But it was like me and Alfari were... It was very hyped for Alfari. Like, oh my God, he's in the 10th place team and has the highest CSD. I also had the highest CSD, and I was in the same team, so but it's okay. I don't need to change my narrative in hindsight with everything that has been said. But I think he had some good strength. He was at least willing to engage. He was trying to bring that to the team, even though he didn't know so well, I think, how to bring that leadership in, because also he respected the people on the team a lot. So I think he couldn't take as much charge. And then I think he just choked the official games. After we went 2-0, I think, after we lost like 1 or 2, I think it was too much pressure for him. I think he was also going through a tough time personally. And I think he kind of choked. I think he probably would admit it himself, or he said it himself, that a lot of the last games he choked. And it sucks because, of course, every split you lose is a missed opportunity to achieve something great that you can make memories of. But in the end, I think this is the split that I made my peace with, and I was looking to move on into FNATIC, actually.
By the way, on this topic then, because what you just said there is something I definitely want to ask about. In this, you're right. What they did is they spanned the narrative the other way for Alfari. With Alfari, it went like this. He's got to be the best top laner. Look how good he is, and he's on the last place team. But you are right. A lot of the people who hate on Opset were just like, lol, he's in 10th place. Told you he sucks. Even though essentially it's like, we haven't said how well he's playing. So I want to ask about that then. It sounds like you do. Do you actually think in that split, individually, just as an AD carry, you were playing as one of the better AD carries in the EU? Or were you the best even? What do you think?
Oh, wait, I mean, I would have to look up all my games of that split, but I was definitely... Usually when I play my splits, like, if I have a game where I lose my team the game, it's like, I probably didn't have, like, the most consistent split. That's, like, how I put standards for myself. And I think... Let me see... No, I mean, just looking from the stats and from like remembering what I remember, I think I played like, I mean, not just the stats, but I'm looking to remember the games, of course, that I played, and I think I had a lot of pretty, even in our losses, I remember some of these losses. No, I definitely think I was one of the better ones, yeah.
I want to ask this then. In that team, like the reason why the Origin team's so scuffed is because you have to know like a million behind the scenes fucking details, like about how you got in the team and then them taking the pay cut and then them being asked to take a pay cut by the Astralis org and then fucking not giving Mithy the money and then them firing K's and then this shit where it's like, it seemed like they were still in deep financial issues at the end of the time. Like I got the vibe from talking to the other people, the Alfaris of the team and all the other people that are in the squad. That like once enough of those problems happened, a lot of them were like, fuck this, second like I can get out of this team, I'm just leaving, like we're not carrying this project on. Did you know at the time after this summer split, like I'm not going to be in this team, like I'm going to a different team after this? Did you know?
At the time the fishy and me were talking about rebuilding the team around me, and then the fishy was gone.
There's another one, and then he's gone as well. He was the architect of the whole team, right?
A case actually somebody who has gotten some heat for some of his tweets is somebody who was like amazing, I think, for our team in Spring Split, who we didn't have for summer, which really, because honestly we had because we were traveling every week to the LEC games for nearly the whole split, we had some real bonds, I think, in the team that usually...
Yeah, by the way, maybe you can explain that, because like Mithy said something similar, but I don't think fans get it. You guys didn't actually live in Germany. You lived in fucking like Denmark or something and flew to LEC, right?
Yeah,
wasn't it something ridiculous like that?
Yeah, because Astralis has their training facility there, and they have their own system of success.
That seems wild, though, to have you like travel there versus the guy who just gets out of bed, gets in a fucking bus, and is just driven 2 miles to the studio. It seems a bit wild to put that strain on the team.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I would say Denmark is a great country to live in.
Yeah, sure.
I think it has benefits. I think the ping was at the time really good.
Oh, I bet the internet's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. And Berlin is notorious for having shit connection, but after every Thursday we would fly. After every Thursday scrim block, we would fly to Berlin and then sleep in a hotel. Also, sleeping in a new environment is probably worse for your sleep quality, and then you would have to wake up Sunday morning to fly back and scrims on Monday. Sometimes we were saying like we only scrim every second Monday, for example, because you don't have a free day if you have to fly and wake up early. You need that rest, because flying, I mean, okay, you're sitting in a plane, but it's still like, so it can still be draining. It's still
mentally exhausting, I find. Yeah, sure, for sure.
For anyone who flies a lot. So yeah, but I think that builds some interesting chemistry of us. Like we have some time where no one is at the PC, no one is like doing anything, and we're just like traveling together. I think that was also good for us, and I think we also lost that in summer splits. We spent definitely less time because everything was online. And
yes, true.
That's one, but it's not like it was also nice because we could rest more. But I think we just didn't do super well with the resting part, probably. So yeah. I wanted to say one thing about maybe the AD carry thing in general, like what I remember when we talked about like wanting to be the hard carry. I think a lot of games, the AD carry can still be the hard carry if everything is like going smooth in the game. But a lot of games, I think sometimes people are like shocked. They see like a team losing 3-0 and it's like, this guy's the superstar. Why is he not carrying the game? But if things break, like if any part of the map breaks and you're just playing with someone who doesn't break so fast, or like it's not like you can break somebody every game. Usually it's always through like some external pressure brings it over the tipping point, unless the enemy does like something really bad or you have a really good matchup, and then you can really snowball, and then the snowball starts rolling. But in a lot of games, which is why teams don't play so much around bot unless it's like the only option that is created through team dynamics, or maybe somebody is crazy and he says, we only play through bot, I will int if you don't come here. We're just like, maybe happens like once or twice in history, but usually it's like we try to do it like that. And even the teams that play through bot usually do it by having a supportive mid laner and somebody who can set up plays mid and make plays bot too. And if that is not happening, and the enemy team is doing that really well and facilitating the games through mid lane, usually the AD carry can be like a really underwhelming role in terms of impact. But also if his team is winning and he gets strong, or if the team is doing well, or if the team is even and the bot lane is just better, you can also see that they will create advantages slowly and carry the game, which we can talk about later more as well. But I think it's an important thing to remember. It's not like in basketball where maybe I'm not like a basketball expert or anything, but where somebody's missing just every shot and he's just having a bad game. Sometimes you don't get the shots when you play AD carry that you can take.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good analogy.
And that's like the difference, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And also, I'll even say, like in the modern day, I even feel like the last few years, people have really ignored that. Like, this is something we should definitely broach into. So I'll maybe start it now. We'll go back into some team stuff. One thing I think's mega underrated for AD carry role is this, mate. Like I said, for me, it's Season 8 onwards. Season 8 is when Riot just said, fuck it, turn all the solo lanes loose, fuck every other role in the game, or maybe fuck ADC, because, like, it's like Loco Doco obviously used to play AD carry a long time ago. He once explained it to me. I thought the best of any analyst. He said this, right? An old school AD carry fight is a team fight, a real 5v5, is like when you're the ADC, you're just thinking of things like what range are they within, like who has CC that can still stop me, has like the enemy mid laner dumped his ult, etc., all the burst damage, etc. You're just thinking of these factors, right? But within that, what's great is if you are like Uzi or forgiven or something, you're like dancing between like just the depth, like the slight ranges on the edges, and it's beautiful. You're doing like all this damage, you're just staying alive, your team peels for you. But you look at Season 8 onwards, the solo laners have a million fucking dashes, hops, flashes. They can go all over the map constantly. They don't even have mega cooldowns on some of those. They're just cycling their whole cooldowns around the fight the whole time. And then on top of that, supports are mega powerful compared to what they used to be back in the day. There's carry junglers and farm junglers. And then finally, this is the maddest part, you don't even get front-to-back team fights half the time. You have like team fights where it's like, you can get blown up instantly, or you can carry the whole fight. Like the difference might not even be you. It might be how your team played. Did they fuck up the top lane, and now their team is like impossible to get to a player? Like, it sounds like it got way more complicated to actually be the team fight ADC, which is where people expect you to pop off if you're ADC, right?
Yeah, I think the last time the game, I mean, there's definitely like the meta is definitely shifting a lot back and forth. But one big thing is that, like you say, the tools that champs have are just very different now. Damage in the game is ridiculous.
It's enormous now, yeah, of course.
Like, most things can like nearly one-shot you. Like, it's very, very different than before. Tank items have been weaker for a long time. That the tank items are way less good. I think that you're forced to fight around dragons way more makes like the front to back also more complicated, because other champs have more ways to getting to you. Support champions being different as well. They have way more tools to get to you without as much counterplay as before, you could say. And the game is just, it snowballs way harder, cause of plates, cause of towers, so you don't often get to the spots that you are talking about where it is late game and you were losing the game, but now you have your 4 items and the crit items are so OP now, and you can still carry the game because your team is just playing way better team fights and they play front to back. I think Season 8 spring and also part of the playoffs, before people were really good at the Irelia, because it was Irelia rework, Akali rework. These champions,
Aatrox, all that shit.
Aatrox, Silas got released as well, I think.
Zoe, the pool was ridiculous.
Yeah, and this carried into Season 9 spring split, and then Season 9 summer, the meta calmed down more again, I think.
That was when we went to like the fucking Azir hockey again, if you remember. Yeah, exactly.
Back into that more, and then that was also the split where I did. This was the Igna trick, other auto split, where we did pretty well again. And so, yeah, it's definitely, the game changed a lot, I think. Yeah.
Sure. By the way, one thing before we move on, I want to ask, it's a side question, but I just wondered, since you referenced that during the funnel period in Season 8, it's true, you were one of the only players who was an ADC player traditionally, who you didn't even just have one mage, dude, you had a couple that you were playing, I remember. But back then, what most of the ADCs did is they either just played the ADCs and just hoped that mages went away, or they might play like one mage, like maybe one of them plays like a game of Syndra, or they play one game of, I can't remember what the fuck people played back then, but like maybe they had one other champion they could play, right? It seems like in general, of the ADCs, like I said, you actually leaned into a bit more. So my question is this. When I saw Perkz, obviously he came from mid lane, so it was an obvious angle he could flex into. But I actually thought the way he used the mages, like when he would pick them and what like bot lane, like it seemed like it threw a lot of the other bot lane players off, dude, and that they just didn't understand. Like I could tell, like I'm not joking, if you go back to that like MSI where he picks fucking the Syndra in like game 5 against SKT, dude, they look like they have no idea that's coming. They're like, what the fuck? In game 5, like this is for all the marbles. So what I want to ask you is this, was that just a function of the meta at the time, or do you actually think like maybe this was an area that always could have been explored in League? Like, I'll give you a quick example. In my native game, CSGO, it's not an exaggeration. There was a gun in the game called the Krieg. It's like the more expensive rifle than the AK. And this gun, dude, was actually OP the whole time, but no one knew. No one played with it. So for something mental like 4 or 5 years, anyone could have bought this and it would have been the best gun and nobody was buying it ever. Because in our brain, the AK is the best, it's the most efficient. And so nobody even sort of imagined it was possible to explore. So I wondered, is it like that for ADC? Did it always have to be auto-attack damage-based champions? Could it have been more of these like mage picks or other? Do you think we could have gone a different route in bot lane? What do you think?
Well, I'm not going to claim that I know for sure that before Season 8 it was not like the best way to play because it was very AD carry dominated, and I think the thing that changed it. I want to say something about the Perkz thing too, but
yeah, go on.
First, I think Season 7 it was Arden meta. If you don't use the AD champ with Arden meta, it's ridiculous.
Yes.
And this was the first meta where I was like more into competitive playing myself.
Yes.
So before that, I was watching mostly, and I'm not sure if it was possible or anything like that. Actually, fun fact, in Season 7, I was playing like Yasuo in scrims. Before Season 8, where everyone was doing it, I was actually doing it. But it doesn't mean anything. I was playing it in the scrim. It was actually versus FNATIC, and I was doing well. Fun fact. But this doesn't really matter. I just really liked Yasuo, so I think it was possible, but I would think the AD carry champs were still better, and the game was still more that it was less around fighting dragons, and a lot of the strength in this time was that the champs were just way stronger early game because the AD carry's base stats all got nerfed like crazy in this patch. And I think the items were also not good on ADs in the middle of Season 8, between Season 8 and Spring and Summer. Because before that, the AD items were super dominant, and it was like Tristana. This was like super late game meta. Out of the Arden meta, it got this Relic Shield. Like everyone like was super tanky, and
yes,
3 tanks. Everyone was playing Tristana and Sivir and this stuff. So
you only needed like 3 items and you were fed as fuck as an ADC.
Yeah, it was like ADs were super strong. It was also the old Last Whisper, if I remember correctly. But I can't say for sure, but probably it was possible. But if you look how much worse people were back then, and then to think that they also would have to play like other champs, I think the curve of the game just needed to develop way more before people would go that far to try to overthrow the meta. But it was definitely more patch. It was very obvious that on this patch, after they changed all the base stats and everything, that there was room for something new.
What was the point about Perkz you want to make?
That Perkz actually, if he was bot laner in Season 8, when the meta just changed, I think he would have excelled even more, but he was playing with Jan Vadit and they were doing...
Sure.
But he was also excelling in the funnel. He was like amazing at funneling, and Jan was like a Heimerdinger main.
There was an edge to it, yeah, sure.
Awesome. Your AD plays Heimerdinger really well. That's nice. Not so much Kaiser, but the Heimer was on point. So yeah, I think that he was playing... Oh, my cat, one more. That he was playing the mages in Season 9 was more of a preference thing, and they were fine, or they were good, but they were not the reason I would say G2 was winning. Because flexing was cool, but I mean, if anyone thinks that this team was not like miles ahead of everyone, and I'm not gonna say like Perkz was their worst player, but it was definitely a meta dominated by mid, and I think Perkz has always intangibles that he brings to any team that you can never like think like, oh, he shouldn't be in that team because he's not so great individually at this role yet, which is no surprise because he just role swapped, but he was definitely fine. And he brought a lot of new flavors, and it was with the flexing in this team because Wunder also played everything, basically.
Yes.
So there was a lot of stuff like that going on. And in Summer Split, I think he maybe played like three games of other champs. I think I used to look that up, and at Worlds he
Yes.
played like 2 games. So it was definitely that he also adapted to the AD carry meta. But if you're amazing at a champ and other people don't know what this champ does so well and they don't play these matchups and you play them and you have like a good strategy around it, I think it can throw the enemy off. And I remember at MSI, I think it was Teddy, his Syndra was definitely great. I think in a final also was FNATIC, he pulled out like Syndra's Thresh. They were getting kind of in like other matchups, and then they did this in a game 5, and I think they even reverse swept or something like this. I don't know, maybe I'm just making things up, but I think it definitely gave him an edge. But yeah, I think it was also a little bit overblown later on in the year where he was
Fair
mainly
enough.
playing AD carries.
Right, what I want to do now, let's do the like comparison with Rekkles Park, because I've got an interesting way to do it. So I want to talk first of all about the first 2 seasons you were in LCS. So there was the Schalke one with Nuke Doc, and then the one where it was the not as good Schalke, but it got good by the summer. Right, the problem in this period in time is season 8 was when they had like at the time what we thought was the best Western team ever in FNATIC, and they won all the splits and obviously went to the World's Final. So no random fan's going to go, maybe Upset was better than Rekkles. In their brain, it has to be Rekkles. He has to be the best. He won the MVP. Then you come to season 9, similar scenario. He's like a player where his team's one of the best again. Now G2's the best, but at least they're second, etc. While you obviously had your problems with the Origin team coming 10th, etc. During these years, how do you actually, like, for example, let's start out like this. I said earlier how some players won't like admit they had a player they liked in their career. Some people also won't admit they have a rival. Some people want to always be too cool for school and be like, oh, I don't think about the other guy. I just play my game, right? You view Rekkles as a rival of yours, right? You compare yourself against him, or you want to be better than him?
I wanted to destroy him, definitely.
Yeah, understandably.
I want to be seen as that. How I see myself, I would love that everyone can see me like that. But
was it tough in these years then, when like it felt like you didn't have the team to do it? Because fans are obviously just going to look and go, well, he's in the final, and you're not. Like it's going to be easy for them. And like I always say it like this, like, well, go ahead. What do you think? What do you think this topic?
Yeah. Totally, but it was not tough necessarily because he was the one winning. Anyone who was winning and I wasn't, I felt a certain level of, drive to make myself become the person that is holding the trophy at the end of the split. And he was just a guy that was very successful, and I was, of course, I wished I was in these teams and was having that success because I felt like, and I still feel like I deserved that because I put so much effort into it and I really tried to perfect my craft. But in the end, what you deserve or what you don't deserve, it doesn't really matter. It's just life takes its way and you have to try to just do the best out of the circumstances that you have. And I try to not compare myself so much anymore. I try to not care as much as what other people think of me, but it's definitely something more difficult for me because my instinct is instantly, no, that I want to show them that, no, that's not true. If I was in that situation, you really think I would do worse? Or if he was in my situation, you really think with all I know about myself and what I've heard about him, how he impacts the team, that he would make a better situation out of this team? But I also was looking to what can I learn from him, from his game? What is he doing that I'm not doing? I'm not like delusional. And I think some parts of his game I definitely implemented in my game in terms of some parts of his positioning, some parts of how he was farming, especially in Season 9. I think I adapted a lot of the stuff into my mid game from previous splits where he was doing really well. But I also developed my own type of playing the laning phase, more specifically because, people can be like very aggressive AD carries later on in the game, but I also ulted in on Kai'Sa, I also did plays, I also eat in on Ezreal, but also there was also moments where I did that and I lost the game. And to a certain amount, you have to think, is it worth to have like a cool moment where you jump in and you kill 2 people and it works 80% of the time, but you probably win the game 90% of the time if you don't do that? and then you lose a game where you do that, even though your team is winning, and you throw away your lead, and you're supposed to carry the game. It's like, if you know what I mean, like you have to really weigh that off. And I think I've moved more into the direction of not doing that as much in later stages on the game, and really not being that guy to lose your game to team. But I also never want to be the person that is like playing to protect the KDA and not do damage. I think my damage is always very reasonable. And if I watch myself, like no matter what narratives people make, or that I play for KDA or something, I can look at my game and I can look myself in the mirror and say, yeah, I think I played that just well enough. And trust me, like if you play with Silly and you play really passive and you actually care of having a relationship about him and you want to know what he says, he will tell you, like, you're playing like really scared here. You should not do that. And then I think, like, am I playing scared here? I definitely reflect a lot about that as well. But I think the highlight moments of people jumping in and killing somebody can sometimes overshine the moments of somebody losing.
Oh, for sure.
Team.
It's going to be the most memorable thing to a fan. Yeah.
Yeah, of losing. But this can overshine the moments of somebody losing his team the game.
Of course.
And
yes.
That's just not me. I really want to win. And if I don't have to make a montage by doing that and try to just do my job and not go for the pentakill or not do that, I really want to just do that. Yeah.
As you say, it wasn't just like Rekkles. It's not like there's a poster of him with a target on. Like, if people don't know, in the season 9, it was also Perkz. Like the story you just told there is something I remember. That's probably why you can remember the detail. Is that because everyone at the time, narratively on the talk shows, was like, maybe Perkz is the best Western AD because he's good at ADs and he plays all the mages. I remember you told me, like, I looked it up, like, you only played 3 games of non-ADC champions. So, but at the time, people did make it sound like he did it half the games, didn't they? Like, half the game was Syndra and then Yasuo, then. But it, like, essentially, because that's the other angle, right? It's bad enough when people are comparing, Rekkles and he's on FNATIC his whole career with mega players. Then Perkz does a role swap, but in probably like the most stacked team to ever play in the West. And then everyone's going, he must be better than you, Upset. His team's better. It's like, look at his fucking teammates. Look at his teammates.
Yeah, it's...
Even a Mickey X, pretty good fucking player to have in the lane, I'd like to have Mickey X smart spot, put it that way.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that, definitely. But yeah, it's not a road that leads to anything, but it also fuels me to see people that I think are worse than me, and people can say, but he won and you didn't. You don't have any championship. How can you say he's worse? He won. It's like, yeah, it depends. I think also the context of who you won with and how you did it, and
yeah, for sure,
how you performed. In the end, if I ask myself, would I want to be the worst player on a team that wins or the best player on a team that is second? Honestly, the more I lose, I start to think maybe the worst player on a good team is better. But on the other hand, it's like, I don't know. Could I really allow myself to be the worst player on my team and not put in all that work? Like, my teammates would have to be pretty crazy to try to make it obvious to me that I'm like not doing my part, I think.
Like you said, after this OG team, you could have gone to FNATIC. How? How could that have happened?
No, I went to FNATIC.
Oh, right, you just mean you did, right? I see what you mean.
Yeah. No.
Right,
after season 10, I was in FNATIC last year. Right?
Yes, okay. Right, here's the question then. So people will know the other side of that deal, Upset. They know that, like, there was the whole thing where supposedly Rekkles told them, like, yeah, I am staying. And then, like, last minute, he was like, actually, I'm leaving. And then they were like, the fuck? We did the whole off-season based on that. And, like, supposedly that's the reason why Sam Matthews was, like, really mad because he got the rug pulled on him. Does this mean that you only knew you were joining FNATIC, like, right at the end of the off-season or something?
No, but I found out very early.
Like, had you heard the rumor he might go to G2, for example?
No, I knew that Perkz was gonna leave his team, or that he was, I don't know, not leave his team, that the situation that happened occurred that he was not in the team anymore. I don't know what exactly how to put it, but I knew that there was gonna be a spot open on one of the two teams, FNATIC or G2, because either Rekkles will go to G2 or...
Right.
And if G2 would, I did talk with them at some point as well, when I was allowed to, obviously. And there was some indication that it was an opportunity for me, but it changed, of course, once the Rekkles thing was like rumored that it could happen. Otherwise, maybe somebody like Kazi could have went to G2, because my market value obviously was a little bit less, but I don't exactly remember all the details of this offseason because it was a pretty tough offseason for me, and I tend to forget things when things were really stressful. But all I can say is I knew that there was going to be a spot open on G2 or FNATIC, and I think I was that guy to take that spot because I deserved it, I think, through the body of work that I put, and because I always was like showing that I really put in so much effort to be a great player.
Sure. If people don't remember, right, usually, if you haven't noticed, even though everyone thinks I'm like mega egotistical and arrogant, blah, 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 maybe I am in some ways, but one area I'm not in is I never actually assume, by the way, that other people have seen all my content. I put out loads of stuff. Sometimes maybe it's just not their shit. Maybe they don't follow YouTube or read articles. But I know in your particular case, you did read the article I wrote where it was a column about you joining FNATIC, right? And if people don't know, I purposely, essentially the whole point of that was, it was almost like what I would say to you if I was like trying to coach you to be the best player in that team, where I tried to frame it that the reason why it should be like a massive opportunity is exactly because people forget this now because you've got a super team, but that was actually when it looked like FNATIC was going on the downward slope. Like they weren't getting all the talents they wanted. Like even some of the people they had were like questionable. Like, will Selfmade be there in a while? Who the fuck knows? Bwipo, I heard for many seasons it had like disputes behind the scenes of maybe he gets kicked or he leaves, or I've even heard the stories been past years that Hylissang would get booted. So it sounded to me at the time like even though you could join that team and go, well, you can't compare me to Rekkles because he had a better team. It's like, no, eventually, like once you get in a good enough team, once you're in a top org and you have some good players, like I was trying to frame it that like it should actually be even more inspiring, because the premise goes, it's like what you said about the difference between being the worst player on a team that wins everything and the best player on a team that's always second. I'm different. I would actually rather be the best player on the second team, but not in the sense that I don't want to win. It's in the sense that like if I'm an individual player, the first and foremost thing I can do is try and be a really great individual player. Beyond that, if my team's good enough, if things work out, yeah, maybe we can win. But I think you want to be a Hall of Fame player first, and then you want to be in teams that win as well. Like that, you should. No one really wants to be carried to titles. So when you joined this FNATIC team, what was your mindset? Did you actually think like this team can win? It's my chance finally.
Just to clarify, I feel the same way. I feel the same way about what you say. That I would rather be the best on the second place team than the worst on the. But maybe I wouldn't be the best on the sixth place team or something. But
there's a good way to say it. Yes, exactly.
But I still would want that too, to be honest, because
yes.
What I was saying is that I maybe starting to feel like this is more of a, like not as serious comment because I just lost again to someone who, I mean, maybe I could bravely say that I don't think he is like the best AD carry in Europe, but he won the split again, and people are obviously going to tell me that he won and that he 3-0'd and going to make narratives about this 3-0 as well and how we got stomped and stuff. I mean, it's just part of the fun of the competition, I think. But your question was about joining FNATIC?
Yeah, like when you were in this team, did you have a similar mindset? Like, look, the problem is this, basically. On paper, you've just taken Rekkles' spot, so it's like, wow, it should be your turn to win. But I have to say, if I looked at that roster, I would have expected the G2 team to dominate the fucking year, not FNATIC. I would expect, like, maybe Rogue or Mad Lions to be next. Like, I actually thought FNATIC was going to be, like, a middling team, but I was trying to make it, like, if you win now, though, you'll get the credit. Because it'll have to be that did it, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's not like Rekkles won in the years where...
That's true, yeah.
Versus G2, he actually lost like 4 splits in a row.
Yeah.
But they were second and he was playing good, for sure. But yeah, I thought I was going to join either G2 or FNATIC, and I would have been stoked about either one, and I would have just tried everything to make the team work, that I can win the split. And I felt the vibe kind of that people would think if I would join a team like G2 that I would want it to be about me. But honestly, if I would have kept in my team, at that time I would have made him breakfast and would have like tried to support him as much as possible and still like do really well myself. But I would have not like demanded that we play like this. If this is the meta and I see what my team needs, then I will try to fill whatever my team needs. But I would have made sure that this G2 team, also because I felt like I had a chance in the past, and now it could have maybe happened like a few years later, that I would have made it work in a way that everyone could have excelled again a little bit more than how the team seemed in the end. Because people shit talking like Mickey and saying like, he played so bad now and stuff like this. It's just, dude, if I would get to play with mithy, I mean, I'm playing with Hylissang, and I think people can see that Hylissang is like pretty good when he's playing. I mean, he was also considered really good before, but now I feel like it's also a different step.
Sure, yeah.
And mithy would have, me and mithy would have been like an absolutely amazing pairing the same way. I think me and Hilly are an amazing pairing because he's actually super similar to Hilly. I think Hilly's a little bit more focused on some of the Rakan and Pyke than mithy, because I think mithy actually also likes to play like Lulu a lot more and these range champs and Lux, whereas Hilly's more favored to the other side and play like the I mean, they have a shared champion pool, but mithy's a little bit more to that side, and I think that also would be really interesting to play with someone like that. But both of them are absolutely the greatest supports in Europe ever, like historically. Maybe other people can join the conversation at some point, like Kaisans and maybe Yellowstar or something. But mithy would have been. I would have loved to play with mithy the same way I love to play with Silly, for sure.
Sure.
And if I would play with him, I don't think the conversation would be like it was in that year. Definitely.
On this topic, then, that's one part that I also tried to big up in that fucking article. It's like, hey, you got Hylissang, mate. Like, there's the other thing. If I was an ADC and I'm playing in LEC/EU LCS for years while Rekkles is in FNATIC, one of the things I also would say is like, oh, you're going to compare me to him? Who the fuck's his laning partner? Like, you know how the mid laners always say, you can't compare me directly. Mid lane is a 2-man position. It's jungle and mid. For ADC, we all act like it's a 1v1 position. Like, if I have Hylissang and I'm someone like Rekkles, like, mate, that's my dream. That covers all my weaknesses. In some ways, even at the time, they had like a really interesting creative tension where Rekkles obviously wanted sometimes to 1v2 farm the lane. He allowed Hylissang to go off. Also, they had the mix between like one's a little bit more defensive, one's a little bit more aggro. Well, I say a little bit more aggro, a lot more aggro. One's, you know, they have like that interesting balance. So I always thought like if I'm another ADC, that's the player I want. 'Cause it's like, let me show you what I'd do with that guy. Because I would say this, mate, people are going to get mega bot hurt when I say this. I think from watching the 4 splits you played with Hylissang, dude, I think you and Hylissang is better than Rekkles and Hylissang. I don't think I'm hating when I say that.
I think the only thing that could stop somebody from like just acknowledging that that's true is that we didn't have the same results as them.
That's true, yes.
But we also didn't have I mean, this split that we didn't win, I mean, it's not like Rekkles won the splits when he...
3 splits, sorry, yes, true, yes.
A good top side.
Yeah.
But I think this split, it's fair to say that the team did not reach what it should be. And I completely agree with that. And I also know why, or I have ideas why, and I'm working towards that. But yeah, I think the Hylissang, comparing players without looking at the surrounding is like instantly you are trolling, right? There's no way you can just do that. You have to see who's the pressure on in the team to carry the game, who's supporting him, who's the team built around. Like all of that is so key. And I think we can talk about the FNATIC, the start of it, and how I felt with that.
Yeah, sure. By the way, on that topic though, how do you get the best out of Hylissang? Because I feel like if you play with him, on some level, you can't play how you play with any other support, right? You have to almost have like a different set of rules and things like you'll follow up on things you wouldn't for another sport, surely.
I think the most important thing to play with Hylissang, and that goes actually for everyone in the team, is that you believe in him, and that you also look him in his face after he goes 0-12, and that you still think that he's the guy to make the big play, and that you trust him, and that you also take the arguments with him, because he is a player who's super focused on details. Like, it's insane. I think sometimes it's even to his detriment, where he could maybe look at the bigger picture a little bit more, but like the way you like move your character in fights and how you engage and when somebody's overstepping and all of that, that's his life. Like every time we play a game, I see him like fucking looking here, and then he shows me like, here in this moment, maybe you could step here, and I'm like, no, if I step there, then this would happen. And then he's like, no, and you need a lot of energy, I think, and you need to also have a respect for him, because just because he goes 0-10 in 2 games in a row and he looks like he's completely trolling. Sometimes he even might be trolling. Who knows? Everyone has games where he's trolling, and it looks worse when he does it. That you can still have that level of respect for him and that level of care, because he's also a really sweet guy, I think. He's really emotional, but he's also really supportive as a person, I think. But he also needs that support and that trust from the other people around him. And I think if you are willing to engage with him, and if you're willing to give him the trust that he knows something that you don't know, and also treat him well and be supportive and just I'm repeating myself a little bit, but if you can give that to him, and you also want to be the best, he's the guy that you want, because he also really wants to be the best, and he tries super hard to work for that. And I think
the thing about the VOD review is interesting, though, because the thing is, anyone who sees him play in an official game can see he obviously has a brilliant intuitive mind for when like an opportunity's there, or if sometimes he even sees the ones that aren't there, like goes for some crazy play you don't even see until he gets the killing it. But hell, I didn't even know you could do that. But on the same side, what you're saying about the VOD review angle, it sounds like he's also a lot more calculated than people think, or he's more conscious about his game, because people have they just make him sound like he's some like Van Gogh character, like some wild crazy guy who's like brilliant, but like also could go fucking terribly wrong. I mean, maybe the Van Gogh example is a good one, because he killed himself, didn't he, in the end, so it didn't work out for him. But it sounds like he's more of a pro than people realise.
Yeah, he definitely is, but he also has his, let's say, Van Gogh moments where he is the artist who pulls off something that I know he didn't think about it. It is like a natural instinct for him to just do that. And when I see him do some of the pike combos, this is just because this guy has more pike games than
it's impossible.
Anyone.
Some of the shit he pulls off, mate.
Anyone has. And when I see him on Rakan hitting 5-man ultis, it's like, this guy looked at the Rakan ultis where he only hit 2 people and how he jumped them, and it's both. It's instinct, but it's also that. But it's also that he needs an environment where people support him, I think.
No, that's cool, because like I say, I think people, if they took the extreme perception of him, would assume he never watches a game back and that he just says, fuck it, I'll do whatever. Sounds like actually it's like that's his process. Like in the game he does whatever, but then afterwards he thinks, was it right? Could I have done this a bit different?
I mean, his process is for sure very trial and error, and you also need to accept that. Like, to think that Hilly will always be the best support in every scrim game you play and you will be dominating it's like, no, some games you will run it down, and that's okay. Because
here's the thing, though, like you're doing a great job of all his positives, all that's great. Like, you just pat him on the back when he has the 0-12 game. But here's the thing, though, Upset. And all the great ADCs I know, it must be tricky to play with someone like that. Like, you must have to really give him like the free license to do whatever. Because a lot of the ADCs I know who were stars, they were super strict with their supports, dude, and they used to mould if the support fucking inted for no reason or went too aggressive on a 2v2 when you have like the lane in your advantage and you open CS. Like, it must be tricky to sort of just give him carte blanche to do whatever.
I think that's the humility I learned from the years of losing before, and also losing to him. And also, there's no player that you just fucking laugh and he has nothing negative. And losing so much and also losing to him and seeing what he's capable of, I'm his teammate, but I'm also like a fan of some of him in a way.
Sure.
And I think always keeping that perspective, which I also have lost at some points, I think, where I started to feel like, no, actually, I'm the fucking shit, like, I don't need to talk right now with him. Like, I already know this stuff. It's like, you have to always get yourself back into that perspective and be like, no, he's somebody I can learn from. And he can also learn from me, but we need to work together. And of course, there's moments where I'm frustrated when he wants to suddenly play a random champ and runs it down, or I like really don't want him to play that champ because my champ will be harder to play, but he's a wild man and he's just gonna lock it in and he's gonna either 1v9 the game, which he does more often than not when he just locks a champ in. But sometimes it also goes bad and it's like, fucking feels bad to play this game for me now. But I think you have to really take the good with the bad, and he brings a lot more good than bad. And I think the moment people realize that in the team and really value him for what he brings, I think the good will be overwhelming. But if it's the other way around, I think there were often times in FNATIC where you could see the team losing like a lot of games in a row, or Hilly was looking really whack. And I think that's often moments where the support's not there. But also he is strong mentally in his own way. Like, if everything is like fucking shit for him, he will still do that and just hope that fucking people follow up and just still go for it. And he is strong in his mind in that way too. But if you talk a lot with a person and you both really want it and you review a lot of stuff, of course you're going to argue. Of course you're going to have moments. But I think both of us learned better to try to get the information out of a conversation and not try to prove who is fucking right in this. And even if we a situation blows up, like, how can you fucking do that? How can you go here when this is the situation bot? And we escalated sometimes, of course, because no one is perfect. We still managed to say after this, sorry, we don't need to do that with each other. Like, let's keep it like, let's keep the laugh in our way we improve, and that's our process, and we keep going with that.
How would you actually compare Upset and Hylissang versus Rekkles and Hylissang? Does Upset play differently than Rekkles would when he was with Hylissang? How would you contrast the two bot lanes?
I think when you look at like especially when we just started playing together and our team was dysfunctional from like past things, and we were like focusing like crazy just on us. We had legit like, I think 10 games in a row where we had like 14 2v2 kills or something crazy like this. And this was literally just because we played a scrim, we watch every game, we watch every laning phase, we look like every window that we miss. And if this happens and he flashes in, I'm already flashing in too. Like, we know what's going down. And when he hits the hook here and I'm playing Elias, and when I use my root and all of that, that's just our work that we put in. And I can tell you, no one worked as much as us on that. And I think that's the difference. I think when he was playing with Rekkles, I think Rekkles plays really intelligent, and I also think at some point he started following up on Hilly's plays really well, especially in the last Worlds they played.
Yes,
I think
absolutely.
He built that trust, but I think that, I mean, I can't speak for them, but my perception is that the reality of them like actually talking with each other and like having that mutual like laugh or whatever you want to call it. It's more than respect, because like very friendly.
Sure.
To like treat each other like that is like something that was missing a little bit more, and I think that's why me and Hilly could build like an extra level of synergy that didn't bring us the success yet, but that we are working towards.
This video was kindly supported by Ahmed Hadjou, Matt Pugnatio Rajcula, Travis Goff, Adam Oaks, Animosity, Butt Pounder 420, Hades, Jensen Go, Joseph Ginsberg, Kovacevic, Tobias Bernasconi, Toucan, William Peyton Lacey, Zumba, Zyrathenia, and a special thanks always goes up to Jerky's Minion. Want to suggest a topic or a guest? Want to ask a question in my monthly AMA? I promise they're coming. Want teasers for my upcoming content? Would you like to be in one of those lengthy donated discussions with me? Well, if any of the above tickles your fancy, or the other perks available, put your money where your mouth is and join the Scrolluminati today, where? In the description box below.